Hi, good morning, everybody. We are back for another Talk About It Tuesdays, and this morning we are going to be talking to Patrick Rogers. So, Patrick, I'll pass straight over to you if you want to give us a little intro, talk about a little bit on what you do, what your role is, what you do on a day-to-day.
Sure. So, firstly, thank you for inviting me to come and talk about
Pleasure.
you, which is always a weird thing. But yeah, I'll be very happy to share a bit about what I do on a day to day, and also where where my career came from. So unlike many in the industry, I didn't come from a law enforcement or a military background. I came through the sort of analyst academia route. So I came from university straight into a small consultancy.
What did you do at uni?
So I did an undergrad in international business. And then did a master's at King's in intelligence and international security.
So what were you doing in that first job? So that was like an entry-level-ish position. You had your qualifications, but your first practical experience in security?
Yeah, it was as a junior consultant slash analyst. So the sort of lead consultant was an ex-senior VP security guy. And I basically would run around Africa and the Middle East with him on various different mega projects. He was quite well respected in the oil and gas field, in the mining field, around security and human rights. We would quite often come in and work at quite a strategic level with some big projects to oversee their security and human rights sort of component of their security frameworks. When the commodities market crashed and he was getting on a bit, it was time to go somewhere else. So I then moved to a maritime security company. I then was there for about 2 years and left as a senior operations manager. So that was all kinds of piracy work in the Indian Ocean and West Africa.
And were you in West Africa, or were you sort of working from the UK?
My job was very much on the operations management side of things, and the business side. So I would sit in the office in the UK and coordinate what was probably less understood as a very complex coordination challenge of different weapons, people, all these sorts of things, and then all the complicated sort of matching that together, as well as some of the regulatory compliance, which is very difficult, as well as with the guys that are working for you and the clients at the same time. So there's a huge amount of coordination that's required.
Give me a good story. There must have been a very interesting story. You're basically dealing with pirates.
Yeah, I mean, we never had. It's a sort of old adage in maritime security is that we kind of did ourselves out of a job, which is, we effectively stopped, alongside the military and some of the measures that were taking place onshore in Somalia. We effectively Somali piracy, and therefore that was when the market really started to come down. And it was an interesting experience in that sense. Whereas West Africa, that always has stayed the same.
So you were there. Then what next?
So I then joined SRM. So I joined as a project manager.
And what do SRM do?
So SRM are a global risk intelligence consultancy. So typically how we describe it is we do intelligence to help inform decision making, resilience to make our clients more resilient to security and cyber threats, and response to respond if the worst case happens. So I joined principally with the focus of looking at our shipping work. So SRM had stopped doing sort of the counter piracy stuff, but we were still doing a lot of security consultancy and intelligence work to the shipping industry.
Sorry, what does the intelligence work entail?
So our intelligence work will so we've got about 150 analysts in the business. So that will entail anything from geopolitics, monitoring political attitudes further within a country. So that will help our clients sort of look at their position of whether they're investing in it, or if they're in there, actually what are the consequences of that. Security threat intelligence, so down to tactical, but also up to strategic. So for instance, I've spoken on the Iran crisis and the impact that has on on the shipping industry, but that can also be down to tactical level. So in Mozambique, with the insurgency there, we've done a lot of human to NOS intelligence work for some big IOCs there. Beyond that, we have a large corporate intelligence team, so that's due diligence, a lot of language capability within that team, so they speak 30 plus languages.
Wow.
And that'll be anything from regulatory compliance through to deal advisory. So if you're investing in an entity or partnering, including suppliers, then we'll look into legitimacy, history of political corruption, financial dispute, corruption, all the other bits and bobs. So big part of that is that, and then the cyber due diligence.
And how do you find that clients perceive your services? So one of the things that I talk about a lot is the fact that sort of the public and client perception of security, and this is, I often am sort of referring to frontline level, there's not a great perception there, and that sort of impacts on our, you know, value or perceived value. How do your clients respond to you? Do you feel like they see you as a cost, or do they see you as a business partner?
You're asking that. It really does depend on the client, and actually you can see trends within certain industries as well. Some industries are slightly tighter on the purse strings, and ultimately, you know, it's the old adage of, you know, if you want the quality, you will have to pay for it, and it'll be a similar price for competitors as well. But some people just say that we're not going to do this now, regardless of whether it's the right thing or not. And I think what we see certainly from the consultancy side is that security in the last, say, 5 or 6 years is taken a lot more seriously, and those operating at the higher levels of corporate security are within their own organisations viewed much more professionally, and themselves are more professional. And as a result, when we are involved, it's generally seen as fairly positive. We're not obviously as important as, you know, a restructuring consultant coming in or something like that.
Well, so you say, you know, are you more or less integrated in so many different areas of the business that when it's going right, you don't notice it because you're still able to continue your business and get on with the sort of the fee earning, generating revenue, sales, marketing, all those important areas of a business. And you don't notice how important security is or how integrated it is into your business until not necessarily it goes wrong or a process goes wrong, but something else happens that you need more resources. Would you say that's kind of a fair point?
I mean, what we're going through now with COVID-19 is the best example of that. Is suddenly security and resilience professionals are, you know, front and center, and the most important people in the business right now. You know, give or take. And, you know, that what I'm hoping anyway is we've already seen this trend of it being better appreciated, those roles. I'm hoping after this that we'll see even more interest and buy-in. As I say, on the buy-in front, I think it's ever really since the Paris attacks, from that point, probably you can draw a line in the sand where you say security is more appreciated in medium-sized companies as well, but also those operating domestically. So previously, corporate security and what the international security industry was famous for was operating in frontier markets or complex environments. It's typically called, you know, you're an oil company in Iraq, so therefore you have corporate security. Well, that's not the case now. You could be an insurance company in the city. You don't operate anywhere that's got any sort of level of high risk, but you have a corporate security function.
It's become more obvious what we do, I think.
Exactly. And security, as you correctly said, is almost forgotten until it's needed. So all your KPIs around actually all the good you're doing and actually all the money you're saving and things like that, it is quite difficult to quantify. So it's not until it happens that that you are appreciated. But the problem is, when something happens, that also puts stress on your corporate security function, and more likely to see a result of, you know, an issue or a crisis that might have formed out of a security. So therefore, something gets painted in a negative light as well. I have hopes, if there is a silver lining of COVID-19 for our industry, I really hope that we'll start to see a bit more buy-in and
better recognition for actually the value we bring to businesses, and that we are a good investment to make rather than just the pure cost.
Yeah, and as I say, that's something that we know within SRM as a trend anyway, is that security, as you know, is more professionally recognised and has a bit more buy-in than it would have. Started out 8 or 9 years ago. Not having a military or police background was a huge negative, and I really did see a blocker to progression in the industry. And it's, you know, that probably lasted 3 or 4 years, and I was thinking, all right, I might have to move into something else, because if you're not that ex-para guy with the network or whatever, of all your other mates in corporate security roles or in consultancy roles or whatever.
And what did they just not?
You're operating internationally. You know, I'd be in some fairly high risk places, and I would say that I'm ex-military. You know, that was always seen as a massive negative. So
it took like some credibility away from you almost.
Yeah, exactly. And then now, if you look at somewhere like SRM and the security and resilience team, there's less than half that are ex-military and police, I think. So or about 50% military and police, and 50% others from different walks of life. And really, what I would say is, you know, education is a big thing. Security is such a broad branch, and things like cybersecurity, things like business continuity, things like crisis management, are all being lumped together under a resilience title.
Yeah.
And if you are to go up the chain, you need to, this is my view, but you need to have an understanding of all these different bits. And sometimes things like accreditation is a useful way of, you know, just getting your foot in the door, or your bum in the seat of an interview. And that is one way, but also networking. And, you know, I know everyone always talks about networking. I find it very important. And all my jobs.
I mean, that's why you're here on this today.
Well,
because
exactly. Yeah, it is.
And networking doesn't have to be scary. Yeah, you know, I had a wine, you had a beer.
And that, you know, but it does make a huge difference. And I can say all my jobs since I left university have come through networking, not me applying, you know, sort of blindly onto a website or something like that. It's because I have a link into that business. It's going for a coffee, it's going for a couple of drinks with those that will suddenly become my boss, and you don't necessarily realize it. Have a drink. Always nice to keep your hands busy, and you're sort of
really good point.
And then just go and introduce yourselves.
So just go up to someone and say, "Hi, my name's Patrick."
Yeah, and just do, sorry, do you mind if I join you?
Yeah, perfect.
That's otherwise you get sort of groups that form, and that's natural to have a normal conversation. But you need to break into that and just have those conversations. And you know, another key thing is, don't go there with an agenda in mind. So like, I have to talk to this guy and we have to have this conversation. You know, that won't seem genuine, and it also is very difficult to manufacture. So you know, you probably will meet them, and even if you don't have the chance to properly speak, you then have a point of reference.
And I think it's about people finding something other than just watching TV, because I think sometimes if you are a very busy person, and now because of circumstances you can't do as much as you normally would be able to, there is that element, I think, of when you just watch TV or movies, of feeling a bit guilty. Whereas if you do something a little bit more active, and again, I don't necessarily mean exercise, because some people can't, you know, a walk is good enough for them. But I don't know, something like, you know, reading, or these online games, or painting, or just something,
Yeah,
learn an
just something to
instrument.
keep your mind busy. No, and I completely advocate that. It's really, really important. And yeah, one of the things that I'm doing, so I'm doing a diploma with the Institute of Risk Management. So
Okay, keeping you very
I've got
busy.
revision to do and
Yeah,
all those sorts of boring things. But actually, if this wasn't happening, you kind of push back and you push back, and then you
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
a bit of a panic before the exams. And now I'm actually being really conscientious and
Start.
finding quite. We'll just have to see what
Yeah,
comes about in the next few weeks.
yeah, and hope that Aces put on another drink straight
Well,
afterwards. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Patrick.